Good evening, everybody. Before we get started, can I get a quick sound check on those online to see if they can hear me okay?
I can hear you, Juan, so help me.
Great, thank you. Can we hear them? Okay. All right. Again, good evening and welcome to the July RAB meeting for the former Badger Army Ammunition Plant. My name is Quan Nguyen and I work with the U.S. Army Environmental Command. And it's going to be in person again compared to the April RAB meeting that we had that was hosted virtually. We apologize that we couldn't secure the usual meeting space at the Art District. So we've got this library for tonight. With that being said, they do close at 8 o'clock, so we need to be out of here by 7:30 p.m. I want to also express my appreciation for the community's continued interest with the Badger Army Ammunition Cleanup program, and especially the dedication of the RAB members. So here is tonight's agenda. We emailed out this agenda to the RAB members last week, so let us know if you did not receive that before you leave today. Also, Michelle Hopp, who is the co-chair for the RAB, unfortunately could not make it tonight, so I just want to mention that. The April meeting minutes, or I guess we can go with the roll call first. Just a reminder, if you have not signed in, please do so in the front office, and we apologize for those who are missing name tags. We will try to correct that issue next time to provide that to you. For the meeting minutes from the April 2025, we've emailed that out on July 10th, and we appreciate everybody that provided their feedbacks and comments. And we've sent the revised RAB meeting out with the agenda last week. So if there's no further additional comments on that revised version, I guess we can make that a final copy for the records. And then the remainder of the agenda would be RAB membership considerations that we will talk shortly. The spring 2025 sampling results, the draft groundwater sampling plan, settling ponds updates, and updates on the project managements for the other cleanup actions. So since Michelle Hopp, who's a co-chair, is not here today, there's no opening remark from her, but I guess I can use this opportunity to put in consideration a RAB membership for a representative of the town of Merrimack, who requested that to be up for vote. But before I get started, I guess, is anybody from the town of Merrimack here tonight? Craig, okay. So we guess we can put that on a vote, I guess, according to the operational procedures that need to be a 51% approval to get an action approved, I guess. So with that said, does the RAB members feel comfortable with having that vote tonight, or you want to put some thought on it? I guess they want to add another RAB member to the another representative to the RAB member. Right now, I guess Mr. Hamilton is the primary representative for the town of Merrimack, and I guess the alternate is Stephanie Brinslick, right? So, and I think I have Mike Sitton as an alternate member. Is that true still, you know? Okay, so I just make sure that we... Oh, he is, okay. So right now, they want to add another member, another representative for the RAB. We only, for the bylaws, for the operational procedures, we are only allowed to have up to 26 members in the RAB, and currently we have 20 already. So I want to open up right now to see, I guess, a type of vote, I guess a show of hands, if the RAB members want to consider is okay with another representative from the town of Merrimack.
You're not an additional member, are you? To replace this replacement. that member is no longer, you know, with us, so this person
That would be like I was.
Right. But I think in addition to Mr. Hamilton, I believe they're requesting another second representative? Okay, that's what I've got from, that's actually an email from somebody from the town of Merrimack. Stephanie, yes. She wanted to put this into,
Yeah, answer is for the town, not the town.
what was,
It's for the sanitary district for the town.
okay, so that's a it's different,
Different entity.
okay, all right.
Is that what you're saying, Mike?
I had a discussion with Stephanie on this issue, and it's my understanding that Craig was selected by the board to be the new Town of Merrimack member. I was in that position previously. However, the Sanitary Commission also requested to have a representative, which would be an additional member.
Okay.
And I think that is the issue.
Okay, I probably misinterpreted that. So is that town or that sanitary district here?
The board selected Mike Sitton as the representative for the Sanitary Commission and Craig as the representative for the town of Merrimack.
Right.
Yes.
Okay, so go ahead, Mike.
I'm agreeing with Mr. Hanson.
He was agreeing with you. What you said.
Okay, he's agreeing with, okay. So we don't need a vote then, I guess? There's no action to be considered if Mike is already acting as that part? Okay, so I guess, sorry, I guess I misinterpret the request from Stephanie. So if there are any other issues, I guess, you guys can bring it up again, but. All right, so we're going to move into the technical part of the presentation. Joel, who's a Spec Pro cleanup contractor, will provide a summary for the recent data.
Vaughn,
Yes, sir.
did we just take an action on the previous issue?
Well, there's no action to take, I guess. I guess.
Well, if we're going to add somebody,
Well, I thought that Mike Sittons was already representing that sanitary district that you mentioned.
according to the board, but doesn't the RAB have to take an action to accept that?
Oh, okay, yeah. Okay, I guess he was already on it, but I guess he's not voted in yet. So, yeah, we can take that. We can go back to this. We can go ahead and take that action. I guess by show of hands, if the members want to vote for adding that representative to the RAB, put your hands up, I guess.
All those in favor?
In favor, all in favor, yeah, thank you. Okay, I count 1, 2, 3. Put your hands up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Anybody online? That's a RAB member. That's okay. 7. And
I got a question. This is Randy from Ho-Chunk and online.
yes, sir.
Can you hear me?
Loud and clear.
Is the sanitary district already a member?
Can we do we have that spreadsheet of the RAB members? If it,
No, the membership was proposed, but it was tabled.
So we'll close the table.
okay. So I guess it's not a member yet. No. You have any follow-on questions to that, Randy?
Well, I thought Robin served as a representative in the past, so I assume they were a member.
That was,
And,
that was the other sanitary district from Buffalo.
That's Blufffield, right?
Oh, okay.
Right.
Okay.
Okay.
I gotcha. All right, I vote in favor.
So I guess by over 51% from my calculation in my head, I guess that's an action to accept another RAB representative, another representative of the RAB membership, so. We will document this on the meeting minutes. All right, we good with that? Any other questions on that? What I've said so far? All right.
All right, good evening. Providing an update on what we did in, oh, maybe I can't touch it. In April for our semi-annual groundwater sampling. So up on the board here, we have the propellant burning ground showing, and that's one of the major plumes that gets sampled in September and April. Just showing some overview of what the results were from a year ago in April. So in the green on the right, we have if it was pretty stable or below, and we're showing in red where there might have been, you know, an increase in the year of at least 25%. Now, I will tell you that the increases you see don't really reflect like the historical trend. They're just a year by year. So we have two different increases there in red. Both of those wells are located in the upper left map near the source area. So near where the cap and waste pits were. So there's a well, 1401A. That well had increasing trends. It was about twice as high as it was last year, and that well does have an increasing trend historically. So that is accurate in that we have seen over the last 10 years, we've seen that particular well, and that is directly down gradient from the source area. And then we have 8202C, and that's had a slight increase. That's actually down, it's showing at 0.3, and it used to be around 10 in 2024 in a different time period. So it has dropped considerably. So it had been at 10 instead of the 0.3, just showing a little bit of increase from a different time frame. So overall, still fairly stable, like downgrading to the source, but we have had a lot higher D&T concentrations in the past within some of these wells. And then in the southern, we're showing that we still have the ethyl ether above the enforcement standard. And so that well is located on County Z between 12 and 78. That well is right above the bedrock. And so ethyl ether is down since last year, but the enforcement standard is 1,000. So it is still just above the enforcement standard. So that's been going on for the last couple of years that we've been seeing an increasing ethyl ether in that well. Just that one specific well, everywhere way off site has that one ethyl ether. None of the other monitoring wells. So it's ethyl ether that's still staying deep down there near the bedrock, around 200 feet. And the next one is showing the deterrent burning ground plume. So we do have a bunch of red showing at least a 25% increase in that area. So the way the table is listed is the wells that are closest to the source are at the top of the table, and the wells furthest away down gradient are at the bottom. So if you're looking at the map on the top left is the source, and all the way towards Wiggins Bay would be the bottom of the table. So kind of orientate people on how you're looking at it. So the first well I see there, DBM 8201, it's got 1.7 and some for total D&T. And that well has actually been overall decreasing the last couple years as a major trend. 8901, that one is a little bit lower than a couple years ago. So overall, it's still lower considerably. And then DBN 102C, which is a little further down gradient. That one has just a little bit of uptick, but nothing major on the trend up or down. And then we do have 1503A, which is located right on the edge of the plume. It's on the far eastern side. That well is, I guess it's new, but it's 10 years old already. But there has been increasing DNT concentrations in that well nest. The enforcement standard is 0.05, and this is 0.039. But we have had some consistent detections in that well, and that's on the edge of the plume. So anything that's going to be moving more towards the east, that would be going towards the upper side of Wiggins Bay, the north side. And then the last couple wells there, the 103B, it's a very small increase. Overall, those wells that are closest to Highway 78 have seen a lot of decrease over the last couple years. So it used to be an increasing trend in those wells off-site, but now we're seeing an overall decreasing trend in that well nest. And then we do have still the new well nest that was installed about 1.5 years ago, which is closer to Highway 78, and that is still showing no contamination or any DNT in that well nest. So that's pretty much bounding the plume heading towards 78 and the Walsh's Bay neighborhood, which is shown on the map there on the north side of Wiggins Bay. Oh, I don't know if this will actually, does this doesn't show up, does it? No. Oh, unless I use the pointer. Okay, all right. So we do have the August, it's not on here, but we do have the annual August residential well sampling program coming up. That is all the same wells that were sampled last year. So in case someone had been looking at a groundwater sampling plan upcoming, everything is still the same for this coming summer. We're not changing any of the residential sampling for in August. So that's going to include, I'll show you the next map on the DBG. But any other questions before we move on to like the next groundwater sampling plan? Yep.
Does any of this get affected by the weather? You know, we've had it real dry and then real wet.
Okay. So the question is does anything get affected by the weather being really dry or really wet? So there was quite a few years ago when we had a lot of rain and the water table rose quite a bit, and that was under the waste pits at the PVG. And so what we had estimated was the soil contamination depth between that. It had rose to that, and it was picking up 2,4 and 2,6 DNT that hadn't been detected by the waste pits. And so yes, it definitely can impact that, and we've seen that, and we're providing graphs to the state and showing that when it does increase, that DNT concentration was rising. The rest of the site, we haven't really seen anything significant with when there's a drought, because the water table is pretty deep and the source of contamination is way far away. Sure. Any other questions before we move to the sampling plan? It's still got some of the same plumes, so the plumes aren't done, but any online? No.
Can you talk a little bit about how, like, sound coming through?
Yeah, I hear you.
Oh, purple. Okay. Changes in.
I haven't noticed anything in the deterrent burning ground plume. I know that the plume has been shifting more to the north and east in the last 20 years. It used to be a little bit further south. But based on the dam being at the exact same elevation there, I haven't noticed anything major change in where the elevation changes with the water table. I know the central plume has stayed pretty consistent throughout, and that's pretty flat too. Any other questions, follow-up? Craig, you have a question?
Well, I'm looking at the current sampling plan and the future sampling plan, and I see a significant reduction in residential wells. I probably just new here. What would be the reason for that?
Okay, I have a slide for that. I do. I have no, but I that's like 3 slides in advance. So yeah, I definitely going to address that. So is that okay if I wait?
Yes.
Okay. All right. No, it's okay. It was recently added to the sampling, or the slide deck.
Hey, Joel, I think you missed a slide, a previous slide where we're kind of running around slide 6.
Oh, I bumped.
Did you bump the?
I think the touch screen is my fault. So, yeah, the next slide is talking about the DBG. So, the plan that we have in the DNR, they're still reviewing it. We're going to do some modifications to the propellant burning ground. It has been quite a while since there's been a plan change. So the red circles on here are showing wells that are going to be added. They're all existing in this area. The plume has done a little bit of shifting from west to east. Mostly it's been the chlorinated solvents that have been shifting from what we've seen. And so we're looking at slowing down some of the sampling on the west side where the contamination has been diminishing. And this has actually been happening for 30 years at least, where the contamination has been moving from west to east, where wells that used to have 100 or 200 parts per billion of TCE have nothing anymore. Some of that's related to the remediation, but some of it is just related to the contaminants attenuating naturally, and then the groundwater plume has just been shifting slowly to the east. So what we're going to try to do is capture with some other wells that we have to the east, and we're adding some wells down the middle to help get better characterization, and then just adjusting when things are being sampled and how frequent they need to be sampled there. And then off-site, we're going to add, this is the winding subdivision here down. There's already 8 existing wells that are there. They used to be sampled quite frequently when they were first installed. And there was a plan mod that there wasn't much being found, and we were able to stop sampling them for quite a while. We had sampled them in 2020. But because we're seeing the shifting of the plume, we're going to look at adding those 8 wells in that neighborhood. And then down on the bottom here, we have talked before about trying to get some wells down by the river on Alliant Energy property. So we still have that in the plan, but it's been difficult to get all the legal approvals because Alliant doesn't agree with the Army Corps property people yet. So hopefully that gets straightened out at some point. But we do want to have wells down here. This is down underneath the ATC power line too. So it's right underneath the transmission line, And so we want to evaluate what's going into the river. It's been quite a few years since we did sample that area, probably 10 to 15 years ago now. But we wanted to make sure there's a permanent well, so we're still evaluating that situation. So overall, we got 25 different wells that we're going to add. There's one well that we're going to remove. It was over on the west side. It doesn't have any contamination anymore. It's not needed for this particular purpose, so we're just going to move it to somewhere else for sampling. And then we still have the same residential wells that we're testing recently along 78, and then all the wells that are directly south of the plant on Keller Road. Any questions on the propellant burning ground plan? Then I'll move to the deterrent burning ground. Charlie.
On these wine wells, they're existing wells? They're the ones that were put in about 20 years ago?
Yeah, so Charlie is asking about the Winings wells, and yes, they're the existing ones that have been there.
They're still there?
They're flush mount.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
They took those out?
We took 4 of them out at the dead end road of Dam Heights.
Dam Heights Road.
Those we removed. You may not be hard to see some of them because there may have been some stuff thrown over some of those wells. But yeah, they still exist. There's still a lease with the Army Corps of Engineers for them. Any other propellant burning ground sampling questions?
Hey, Joel, I do have a clarification. Maybe you know the answers. The 107 monitoring wells, I think that's including those 25 existing and 3 new wells and minus 1 well, right?
No.
No?
No, it's 25 minus 1 to the 83 because we're removing 1 of the 83. So it is, if we install those additional wells, it would be 110. If, once they're installed, but we don't know when they're going to install it. So like right away next year, assuming this is approved, this is the number of wells that would be sampled.
Gotcha.
Yeah, that's good. Charlie, you had,
All these wells, do you pump a certain amount of water out of them?
it's based on parameters. So we're slowly pumping it, and then we're checking the water quality parameters to verify that we're getting fresh water.
So you're getting fresh water in there?
Yeah.
And some of these old wells that we'll be adding, that we haven't sampled in a while, before we do sample that, we're going to redevelop it to make sure that the well is in good conditions before getting samples. Just to,
Yeah, we also have to make sure they can pump. Because every well on this map had been sampled in 2020 for a one-time round. So at least we have some recent information.
So you sampled these in?
2020.
Really?
There was, what was there, almost 200 wells in this plume. That was in a past RAB meeting, I'm sure. Any other propellant burning ground questions? So the deterrent burning ground, same number of monitoring wells as we're currently doing are being suggested, but there are 19 less residential wells. As far as some of the frequencies, we are looking to change just a few. I think there's a well here at the edge of the plume. It's always been clean for D&T or VOCs. So we're just suggesting that that be semi-annual instead of quarterly. All of the wells that we have at potential concern, they're quarterly. So there's a green quarterly as residential. The yellow is a monitoring well. And so we have four wells along this plume edge that would be of potential more concern. And so those are going to stay as quarterly sampling. So just so you know, the residential wells, they do not have any D&T detections currently. There is like some low chlorinated solvents coming out that is occasionally detected in this residential well, way below any drinking water standards. But because of the location, we still want to make sure that it's quarterly sampled. So this one doesn't have any like wells. There's not a lot different because we still feel that all the wells there still need to be keeping sampled. But then this is the map that you were talking about, Craig, where you're wondering about what wells are not going to be tested. Okay, so there's still 3 wells up here that we're looking to keep. There's a well here for residential, the red triangles. And then in the yellow box are the ones that, these 19 that we're looking to remove from testing. So some of the explanation on why we're looking at doing this. So they've been sampled continuously, at least annually, all of those wells since 2007. And if there was there's a couple, I think there's 1 or 2 new homes, we started sampling them right away, and then they've been continually to be annually sampled. Same thing with these wells up here that we've been continuing to sample those. Still not finding anything in these 3 wells. Actually, this well is a bedrock well, and this has been sampled since the 90s. Even though we've never found anything in that well, we just have been continuing to sample it from way back when. So since 2013, we've had some sporadic detections before. This many wells here has not had a DNT detection since 2013. So of any of these residential wells. So also the monitoring wells that are located directly upgrading. So there is a nest of wells that covers all the different depths right on the other side of, right on Old 78 across from the entrance to the subdivision. And in that well nest has not had any indications of any contamination either. No chlorinated solvents, DNT, and this well nest has been here since 2010. And so we had installed this well nest up here in 2010, and this one in the thought that the plume was migrating further to the south. We didn't have any evidence that it was off-site, but we were trying to evaluate that initially in preparation to see if the residents down here could be of concern. We have not found that concern at all so far since 15 years later. The more concerned that we are is the plume that I showed you that is up on the other side of the plume, which we feel the plume is migrating more towards the east in that direction. So the concern does not appear to be all to the south. We are continuing. I do not see any stoppage of the monitoring wells being tested semi-annually in that area. I would not suggest that at all now. There are some minor hits of detections here for different solvents. We have TCE and well jet pumps that we found in their actual home. Plumbing compounds sometimes get shown up. Somebody put in a new well and it was blasted with tetrahydrofuran or some other plasticizers. But there's not a trend of any kind that there is even a chlorinated solvent plume migrating in that direction at this moment. Craig.
On the plume migration, now I'm assuming the plume is significantly below ground enough where the back pressure from the lake won't affect. Usually there's back pressure from the lake along the shore, and if the plume is below that where it won't be affected by the back pressure.
Can they hear me? Can they hear him? You think? I didn't know if I needed to repeat Craig's question. Sorry, that was a longer question, so I don't want to.
I'll show it up.
That's okay. I don't know if you're he's checking. Okay. Well, this, so he was concerned about, is there a back pressure with the lake? Oh, okay. So the answer would be is that this is actually a discharge right here. There's a spring. And so this is actually, the groundwater is just above the lake level at the wells there. And so it is discharging into the lake pond that connects with Wiggins Bay.
Okay, so it is.
So it's discharging. So the plume potentially somewhere in this region could be discharging into the bay. It's different than down in Gruber's Grove Bay, where the bay is at a much higher elevation than the water table. So there's different interaction there.
So that wouldn't have diverted in any way, so it's still in that direction.
No, it's still going to keep going. The water table still is going to try to get, and the spring is still active into the pond. Yeah. Online question?
Yes, Laura posed a question online. Have you considered installing a nest along wells at S1121 so it has all the different depths similar to us?
Okay. No, we haven't. S1121 is a shallow well. We do not have any indications of anything deeper that would be migrating from a different source. So if we're looking at the larger map, S1121 is down here. Anywhere up gradient, this well nest has been clean for 15, 17 years or whatever. And we removed a bunch of wells up here that were clean. So from this particular source, we have no indication that it would have to be something totally different, not the term burning ground. Chris has a question here.
Joel, has the DNR agreed this change yet?
The DNR has a DNR agreed, and they are looking into it right now, but they have not given us their official opinion.
Okay, would the Army be open to a contingency approach that if the monitoring wells start to show issues, they'll put these back in the sampling plan?
That would be the immediate decision. That's why you want to keep the wells going, because if there is any concern, I would imagine we would immediately discuss that with the Army, that we're looking into, that we need to increase, and we'd probably do it immediately if there was something of significance, especially if we were finding D&T that we would say, oh yeah, this is the plume, that we would know.
You talked about S1121. Is murder be older?
We're not really able to hear your question, Laura. Sorry.
Okay.
Okay. Okay.
Question is, could the proposed bioremediation system affect groundwater flow, including at S1121?
I assume that the injections will be taking place closer to the source area first. So I would imagine that the main source would be attacked at the beginning. So at this time, I would not expect it to change groundwater flow down in the downgrading portion at all. Okay.
Then it is possible.
that it'll affect groundwater flow. That's why you're going to continue to monitor during and after the injection. So if you think it's possible, we're going to continue monitoring. But I don't know if the answer is yes or no. Any other questions about the sampling plan?
She says thank you.
Okay, sure. So for the central plume, this is very limited change. We're going to add a couple wells within the middle. These are already existing. But otherwise, as far as what you see on the map, the landfill has quite a few wells. There are already 12 wells that are actually associated around the waste dump landfills where all of the debris is. These wells are actually being used for two purposes. One is to see if there's anything coming out of the landfill, and no, there isn't yet. The landfills haven't been leaking that we see them into the wells. But we're finding the dinitrotoluene coming from the central plume up here, and these wells are being used to track where the plume is. So we call them NL for new landfill. So if NLN, it's a new landfill nest. So this central plume, we're still monitoring this edge of the plume, and then we're still going to keep every well out here to monitor anything that's moving towards 78. So the plume is continuing to want to show it wants to curve back towards Gruber's Grove Bay. And all of the residential wells that are currently being tested down here, the entire subdivision for the moment is still going to be tested. There are some wells here on either side that the DNR has requested to show that the plume is actually bound where we say it is. So if the Army does get funding, then the monitoring wells can be installed right on the north end on USDA property. So then we can say that from monitoring wells, we can bound the plume there. The end of the plume is actually still getting predictably less in D&T concentration throughout many of the monitoring wells. So it is still seeing a very positive trend on the down gradient side, even though the up gradient side still has concentrations that are at least 2 or 3 times higher than the enforcement standard. So if there was any treatment going on, you would be looking at doing treatment way up in the source area initially. Yeah, do you have a question?
No, I have some information.
Oh, okay.
The county has just looked at a plat map on Gruber's Grove. It's on the other side. There's some farmland there.
Oh, you're talking about right at the top of the hill, the old road farm?
Right.
Yeah, that plot that overlooks the bay. Yeah, I've heard that
They're looking at 22 lots there.
oh, so that would be right next to where he just built a new mansion, right? There's a new house that was just built there? Okay. We would not be looking to sample any of those wells. We have sampled the homes that are further along the bay, and they've shown to be clean every time. So there's still some homes that are to the west that aren't being shown, but they've never found anything yet. Any other central plume questions?
Yeah, John, it's Mike Sitton. Here, you mentioned the Sauk-Prairie. Have we actually identified a source?
For the central plume, the source area has been several different potential areas that we had done during demolition. The nitroglycerin area is located up here where this blue arrow is, those were sewers that were discharging to surface water ditches. Some of the ditches were excavated, some others were being investigated for any source for D&T. There is a nitroglycerin pond that was up here. Some other production buildings where D&T was used within the production to add into the mix. But other than the areas that we've been investigating 10 to 15 years ago, we haven't found any other significant source. Yeah, there's another question.
Laura asks, I understood that the central plume may be flowing under Gruber's Grove Bay, so isn't monitoring certain wells and lighting's useful/prudent?
I haven't seen any evidence to show that it does go under the bay yet. When we were testing the wells on the other side several years ago, we didn't find any indications so this would be on the Gruber's Grove Bay side. We haven't found any indications that the plume was migrating over there. I know that the USGS has been looking into that with their model. I don't know if they're ready to discuss that at next meeting, or I think at the next meeting the USGS is going to discuss more of their modeling. Any other questions for this section? For the NC plume, we are looking at evaluating. The DNR has asked about additional wells in the past. So we are looking to install, these are very generic at the moment, but to install some additional down gradient wells that are shallow, and potentially a well up gradient to the north that's shallow. So we are still finding 3 wells in the plume that have enforcement standard exceedances for D&T. There is the same sampling plan that we've been doing for years here, but if there is funding available, then we're looking at putting some of those wells in. There had been some wells in the past that had been abandoned, so at that time we did think we had the plume bound. There was some wells down in here that had been removed and they were clean at the time. But being that the plume is still consistently has D&T, that's what we're looking at evaluating for in the upcoming couple years. So now we got a groundwater question? Okay.
Laura asks, could livestock or irrigation wells affect the movement of the NC plume?
I would say if you're going to be only pumping 50 or less gallons a minute, the sand is very productive and you're probably not going to change very much. I know that the DNR asked to put cattle there, but no one has ever, the well has never been activated. So they haven't even pumped any water out of there ever. So that project that the DNR had has never really come around. So a brief update on the settling pond. So last meeting we had a lot of maps, a lot of discussion about some of the results, you know, that we're finding 2,4 and 2,16 T, nitroglycerin, arsenic exceedances throughout quite a bit of Final Creek, settling pond 1, and little in settling pond 3 and some of the spoiled disposal areas. Obviously, the soil contamination does still exist, and the Army will be looking to fund something in the future to fully investigate the soil contamination. But for now, we wrote a sampling summary, which we gave, And then we're writing a site inspection report just for the government to bring everything together. It's publicly available, showing all of the detections. We were sampling for volatile organics, all explosive compounds, including TNT, RDX, HMX, all those besides DNT and nitroglycerin. We also did SVOCs for samples, so other production-related chemicals. So that'll all be in the report tables. People can look at. There's only 186 samples, and when you say there's 100 to 200 parameters per sample, it's just a little bit of data to look at. So people can go to sleep very quickly if they want to read every bit of line, but there'll be data tables for all of that. But we need to have it on record before it moves along to any further work, document it for everyone's need. There's going to be a lot of pictures we're going to provide, so trying to tell a story with some of the pictures of the site so people that have never been there, they can see different parts of what the site looks like, different areas to understand, you know, like how would water flow, because it is hard for somebody to understand how would the water flow through this area during production. Maybe that people don't understand it, so we're going to probably show some of that in a different way. We did have some sign installation done right before the 4th of July. So we worked with the DNR on designing signs to put around. We did get 13 signs up. The DNR owns land from this main road north and south all the way over, and so they own all of this side. And so we were putting signs in various areas to let people know when they're coming down the road, left or right, that there could be soil contamination. I'll show a picture of the signs. And then Bluffview, we did put some signs up over here, not as many as we wanted to yet, but like the bike trail runs through here. We did put them up on the bike trail gate so that people know before they walked across the gate to trespass that they're going to be trespassing and there could be contamination. But I ran into bikers the day we were putting them up, and they just ask questions. But same thing with, there's a gate at Bluffview here, so we wanted to make sure if people were down there, and then before they went down the road from Keller Road, if people walk down there all the time, that they would know what was over in that direction. So I had 2 different versions. They're pretty much saying about the same thing. The only difference was we couldn't put no trespassing up on the DNR side. People might get freaked out by that. But otherwise, making sure that, if they wanted to get more information, we're not suggesting anybody burn. There already is a no excavation for the area, but we want to make sure people understand that the property owners know if they need to excavate in a certain area, they should be asking the Army first, because that's the way they accepted the property. But the public may not know that they shouldn't be digging around down there. And then, what's the site ID, who's responsible, and how to contact someone at the Army. And, to try to just leave the soil alone down within the settling ponds. So I rarely have seen maybe some hunters as much as we're out there down in one of the settling ponds, but usually we encounter people, they're always staying up by the roads. They're not really going down below very often. I know that there are the dog people that train to the south. So we did make sure that there's a sign in if they were coming closer to settling pond 3, where they are, that they would see that. And then some websites, so if people wanted to look up the information about the site, they would go directly to this, type it in, and they could find like the current information, the site maps and stuff. Any questions about settling ponds and the signs? Online?
Or as a comment about DNT isomers.
Yeah, go ahead.
She says the soil should be tested for all 6 isomers of DNT to accurately determine the risk to groundwater. The Wisconsin groundwater standard for total DNT includes all 6 isomers.
Yeah, so that is something to be discussed for the future with the remedial investigation that would follow. So I know that was recently discussed about evaluating if that could be done. But there's no plan at this time to do any additional testing at this time. Any other sign questions? Anyone even seen the signs yet? Or even been down there? Any? Okay. It's only been up a week and a half, but.
Have we taught the animals how to read?
No. No. The deer still go wherever they want.
So if somebody killed a deer during their work, could they get contaminated secondhand from the deer?
Based on what I recall from the ecological risk assessment done over, 15 years ago that the Army did, it didn't seem like the deer tissue would be affected, but that's my remembering. That was a very large document, but there was this very large assessment done with all the way from worms up through birds and then other mammals, evaluating that food chain. But that is something that would need to be addressed in the next phase, is all of the risk assessment.
So just to provide you all with some updates to some other cleanup projects. I do recall that the final proposed plan was distributed for public comments back in mid-December of last year and ended in end of February of this year. And we have been working on those comments that we received. And actually, I could say that as of this week, I finally got to a point where we had some progress on that, and I am currently drafting up a letter to the WDNR on their comments. In that letter, that's going to be attaching a matrix of those responses of the comments, and I will provide that, hopefully provide that to the RAB members and to those who submitted those comments next week. We apologize that it took a little bit longer than anticipated, but as you can understand, some of the issues is pretty complex, and we've been working. The Army's been working more with less lately, so hopefully I will get that comments out to you guys next week. And then, as mentioned in the previous RAB meeting, that we are considering, based on the comments that was received, we are considering on conducting a pilot scale, a bench scale, and a pilot scale test. So for the proposed remedy, which is the emulsified vegetable oil. And then since we are going to be pursuing that action, the record of decision will be delayed until that test is completed. I will pause there for any question on that. Chris?
You just said pilot scale bench test.
Yes, it's bench scale.
Pilot or is it bench?
Both. You do a bench scale test first. It's more like laboratory control environment to see if the amendments is right for the contaminants, and then the pilot test is more of like a field test with some well installations and injections of the actual amendments to the ground.
Okay, so it says under consideration. Where is that in the?
So I'm right now.
Process?
Right now I am writing the contract for that pilot test work to be funded hopefully in FY26.
Okay, so what you're really telling us is the Army has made a decision that you've not published, not made formal, but you're implementing.
Well, we're not implementing yet. I'm writing a contract to be ready to be.
But if you commit federal funds, you're starting.
No, when you write a contract, you're not committing anything to it. I'm just running a contract right now. Once the response to comments is provided back to you all, and And it seems like, based on the comments that we received, that there are a lot of questions asked about wanting to do some kind of pilot test before going full scale with the remedy.
Okay, so you're saying you're not going to issue the contract until after you've formally made a decision?
I guess, you know, first, the contract process like 4 to 6 months. Okay, so let's put it out there. So it's going to extend to FY26. But I guess what other decisions, I guess, is there to be made if the public is asking the Army to do that? You know, it's not a decision document in terms of, it's not a decision document in selecting a remedy. It's just a pre-process to make sure that the remedy that we've selected in the proposed plan works. And that's what the, it seems like what the RAB members were requesting for that.
So it's a contract for the pilot process?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not a contract to do the actual remedy. Yeah, exactly. If you recall, the proposed plan was a call for selecting that particular remedy, and a lot of people were not sure if that remedy was going to work. And we were going to do that pilot test after the record of decision has been finished. But this step we are doing before that decision document is finalized. So if this pilot test does not work, then, you know, we go to the next step, which is whatever other remedy out there that we need to look at.
Okay, so the record of decision should reflect that then at some point.
Well, if the pilot test works, and the pilot test, you know, shows it's successful, then yes, we will continue with the record of decision to document that as a final remedy.
Do you have a timeline for that yet?
I have a timeline for the pilot test, which I'm writing a contract for, and that, like I say, it takes 4 to 6 months to write that contract or to award that contract. And this is all subject to funding.
Contract for the record of decision and getting...
I would say that once we do the pilot test, and then the proposed plan has to be submitted again to the public for comments.
So we're talking here.
Yes, correct. Yes, since we are kind of stepping back now to you know, update some of this, you know.
So really, we're effectively revising the proposed plan.
Right.
Okay. And last question, I'm sorry,
Go ahead.
don't mean to monopolize stuff here, but at the last meeting, it was said that there was comments and responses would be shared with the RAB.
Correct.
Would that be shared then along with it being sent to the DNR?
Correct. Yes. The like I mentioned, it's going to be shared with the RAB members and to those public members that provide their comments too.
Since there's a large hole in my understanding of what's been going on recently, what is your definition of success for the pilot program?
I guess if it's right, I guess it would show if the EVO, the emulsified vegetable oil, is degrading the contaminants at a percentage that we find acceptable. And obviously, I cannot stand here and give you that acceptance criteria yet. You know, I'm going to be working on with the DNR input and the USGS's input on providing that kind of parameters.
How long do you anticipate it taking for you to find success in that pilot program once it's instituted?
I would say, in my experience, the pilot tests probably could take, you know, 2 years.
If I might. Have you done this type of remediation somewhere else?
We have done something similar at another installation at Cornhusker Army Ammunition Plant in Nebraska. Then used a slightly different amendment, I believe, but it did show reductions in the plumes. But this pilot test is more specific. That's why we're doing this pilot test. It's more specific to the plume here at Badger. And so when we do the pilot test, it would show more, you know, more of it. I guess it would it would be more realistic of the conditions here at Badger. But this remedy is not something brand new. It's been done at many other cleanup sites before.
By cleanup, you're determining that it's now safe, the water is now safe.
Right.
Meets the standard.
Right, exactly. Yep. The ultimate goal is bring it down to beneficiary water reuse to wherever the Wisconsin DNR regulations are.
Thank you.
You have any question online? All right. And then following up to the next update, the Gribble Grove Bay, the data gap investigation report was recently submitted to a DNR in April, and we received the comments a couple weeks ago. So the Army is working on reviewing those comments and providing our responses to those comments. And once we're done with that, then the feasibility studies will be submitted to DNR. And then for the PFAS updates, as I mentioned last RAB meeting, we have the contract procurement completed. That's a process where it took 4 to 6 months for me to work on that contract. We're ready to get awarded, but we're just waiting for funding for that to begin.
Let me ask again. Funding seems to be a challenge currently. And do you foresee funding within a reasonable period of time, or in the current situation?
Yeah, from my understanding, it's going to be pretty challenging for the next couple of years.
Okay, so
Yeah.
it could not even start.
Right, but I did do my part in having that contract ready, right? Because by the time I know if that funding is available, and I don't have the contract ready, then it's like a hit or miss. So, but at the same, on the flip side, when I have the contract, like the PFAS that's finished and completed, and you don't have the money, it's like you've done all your work up front for really nothing, to show for nothing really. But that's how it is, I guess, in this environment. And then the last update is the long-term management, the LTM. Contract that I'm working on right now. That is the contract to develop continuation of the landfill inspection, the sampling, the on-off post groundwater sampling that SpecPro has been conducting. So we are hoping to have that awarded by the end of September. And that has, I put subject to funding availability to there, but that a little bit more, I have a better sense that have more likelihood of being funded than the others. So with that, I take any questions?
So what happens if that's not funded? Is all the work that's been done just kind of?
Right, well, yeah, exactly. If that's not funded, then obviously there's some, conditions from DNR that would force us or write us some kind of violations, for not taking care of the landfills or all the other maintenance issues. So that's where, we would begin, the Army would have to begin, somebody at the Army has to begin to look at that violations and reconsider their priorities.
Just a comment, I don't think Washington cares.
I have no comments. Yes, sir.
And I'm trying to fill in the holes in my
good.
background here. When I was on the board, the remediation was to put in a water system. And the town of Merrimack looked at a sanitary district that they created, and they bluffed into the same thing in order to accommodate this water district. That was considered the best remediation. Well, what happened to that?
Unfortunately, that was way before my time, whoever made that decision. My understanding that, the representative, the Army representative at that time might have went ahead of themselves, I guess, or in announcing that as a possible solution. But
That's not correct. That's not correct. The Assistant Secretary of the Army was involved, don't even say that.
okay, so I guess it's before my time, so I'm just saying something that I've, my understanding is. So it was not a remedy. It was some, to install a water treatment plant. We would still have to be required to clean up the groundwater regardless.
That wasn't wrong, and now the DNR approved.
Okay.
The DNR approved an LTFS based on technical feasibility of this very remedy you're proposing, among other things. So it was going to be isolated and heated this center with a water system and minor natural attenuation. That was the remedy. We're still questioning the authority that was quoted by Mr. Kelly to kill that remedy. We've yet to receive any authority from him.
I believe somebody from the town of Merrimack requested a FOA on the data, and I think we provided that that link.
No, we did not.
We have.
What we got was information regarding the proposed remedy as it was at Cornhusker. We did not get the other half of that, which was asking for the legal basis to say that the Army didn't have the authority to build that system.
Right. Well, we received several, obviously, comments from the town of Merrimack, and one of them was to request a FOA, which is what does it stand for? Freedom of Information Act, right? So, when you request that, obviously, me working at my capacity, I don't go in and look for records. It has to go through a system, and we provide that site for that person that requesting it to go to that request. And once they submit that request for the FOA, then that tasker will trickle down to eventually to people like me to look for those kind of data. So I'm not sure where if that person or whoever it is that requested that did that, but as of now, we provide that link to that person, and we have not received anything follow up to that. Maybe something on our end in the Army side that.
What we received did not answer our question. That's what I'm telling you.
Okay. Yeah, I have no.
It was non-responsive.
Okay. Yeah. I have no.
The next question I have, to go back to the proposed site, groundwater, on this pilot scale test, are you going downrange to several wells and injecting EVO just to see if it works? Is that what you're talking about?
We haven't picked I haven't looked at the area of where we're going to do the pilot test yet, but I would think that we will be installing injection wells at probably near the source area or somewhere where.
Near the source area, or into the source area?
Downgrading to the source area.
What are we going to do about the source area? Because we've got new releases as we speak. Joel just reported on it. What happens every time the groundwater moves up into the waste mass and get another release?
The pilot test is just going to.
The remedy doesn't solve that problem.
Right. The full-scale remedy, if the pilot test does work, will be addressing the source area also. Do you have any further question, Mike?
Yes. Did you sure that?
Break it up. Perhaps put the question into chat, if you don't mind, Mr. Break it up on audio.
Well, we can go back if he has another question. So just want to show the future RAB meetings coming up, hopefully in person again, for the next 4 events. And that's the end of this presentation today. We appreciate your time here. And if any follow-up questions, feel free to hang around and ask, or you'd always email us with any follow-up questions too.
Randy is typing.
Okay.
Do you have a schedule for the next meeting?
Oh, right there.
You secured a location or not?
We try to do the art center because the internet quality is a little bit better than here, and plus some of the, just the visual in the on the camera. And unfortunately, this time it was already booked for another event. Is there a preference either way?
No, I'm
Okay.
just curious.
Yes.
Do they have any idea how much farmland is going to be destroyed putting these wells in? And do they consider boring, remote boring, what do you call it?
Sure. But whatever we do with the land with the USDA, we have always been communicating with them to make sure that we're not impacting their activities out there.
So the first goal would be to do it when they aren't farming, if we can work around that, work the field at the right time, stay in a straight line so you can avoid the least amount of disturbance instead of to drive over the side of your corn because we're sampling and you haven't gotten to harvest it yet. Oh, we'll be out there tomorrow. We're going to cut the corn down. Okay, so, but you have a lot more coordination when you get to that. With Dennis Hancock, we've had a meeting with him already.
Yeah, I've heard people mention directional boring to do the wells, to keep out of the farmland and stuff. I don't know if that's...
We evaluated that several years ago. It's very expensive.
Yes.
Hey, so is all this.
It's even more expensive.
So are those issues that he's bringing up here, and Dennis Hancock brought it up at the last meeting, about how much land would be taken out of production for that array of wells that you're talking about. Is that going to be analyzed in this revised plan?
The pilot test should be able to give some indication about spacing and how much you can affect. So that'll help determine how many wells you need to be injecting in an area. So then you can evaluate, what is the worst case scenario where you need to be injecting. So that's what we
Maybe looking at an additional analysis down the road then.
Oh, every time you're going to do an injection in an area, you hope to learn something for the next time in that area.
But at some point you have to say, we know enough to at least make reasonable assumptions and give you our analysis.
Yeah, that's what we'd hope to find whoever does the pilot test.
Yeah. I'm just wondering when the analysis of that impact of that is going to take place.
I would hope some of that's done before the record of decision is signed. That's what.
So we're looking at another year beyond next year. Okay. We're looking at some significant time before we see a record of decision.
Correct. I might be well in the Alzheimer's before
Yes.
So is there anywhere in the country where the Army or its contractors provide water systems for the residents?
I don't have that answer on my tip. I could look for you and get that answer to you, but I don't know right now. Yes.
So the water system was provided for those residents.
In Grand Island, it was an extension of an existing system that I understand. Newspaper articles there that the Army did pay for. Also in New Brighton, Minnesota, there was an extension of the existing water system to deal with the Twin Cities Army plant up there, to deal with some of the contamination issues there. So,
Someone had the authority to make those decisions, apparently.
yes.
But just want to make sure, those different sites, scenarios or examples, including Badger, all have different, set of risks, that take into play. So I'm not sure what the details are, but so it's just because, the Army approved this once installation does not equally apply to every installation. So there's a lot of other factors. I'm pretty sure that came into play. So
They're citing where the well was going to be, the main well for the system. All right?
Yeah. I'm not sure I understand that.
Well, when that was an option for the town of Merrimack and Sumter, and putting in a water system was an option, there was talk of, okay, where are we going to put the well now? There was talk of siting the well. But it was after that we were told we can't make that decision.
Well, there's a sort of this is just my recollection. There was a very fine line drawn between extending an existing municipal system and instituting a new system. And that's what we were told at the time was the difference. What the legal differences really are, we were never told. I never saw, as a RAB member, anything in writing justifying.
Thank you.
We're still waiting for that.
on the decision from Army to not install the water treatment, I can.
The water system, we were told was based on an opinion that we were not allowed to see from an unnamed lawyer at the VA. And that's what we asked for. We asked for the basis for that because there's no such restriction according to our legal counsel in CERCLA.
Well, I will continue to note that comment and, see what I can do to address your question.
Drop off, I'm more than happy to receive it, but we'll need an answer.
Anybody else, any other questions?
Public question. Okay.
All the slides you showed kind of indicated that the dangerous levels are dropping in most all of the pools and all that kind of stuff. So if you do this pilot thing with the EDO stuff, how do you differentiate between what's naturally happening versus what will happen after you with the vegetable oil?
Okay, so the question was, if you see these dropping levels, down gradient, and then you do this pilot test, how do you know, how can you determine that the levels are dropping and they're not dropping because of what's naturally occurring? Is that about? So if you go to some of the areas where, say, back, so I'll use this as an example. So if you're looking at some of these numbers, so the enforcement standard would be 0.05, and so we're 10 times above that in some of these numbers. We are, for instance, this set of wells is all about 10 times higher. This is just before a farm field. This well nest is just barely in a farm field, but there is a bunch of area around there. So if you can show an effective change somewhere within here and monitor that, if you can knock that 10 times down to like just the enforcement standard of 0.05, then you're going to see a huge benefit. Then that tells you a lot that it is not changing dramatically there on its own. But if you can find that change, that the groundwater is cleaning up down gradient to those injections, that's where I think you're going to see the benefit. I would not go to an area where it's near the enforcement standard and you can't predictively see it, because you don't want any laboratory, questions like the concentration's too low. You want to see a dramatic change. So we're looking for something that if the injection is going to work, it's going to work right away. We don't want to say we have to re-inject there. That's going to cost too much money. So if it doesn't work with the first injection, then you have to re-evaluate how you would try to do that. Or you didn't do it effectively. So you definitely have to look at your process. Does that help answer your question?
Thank you.
Sure.
So these wells aren't permanent then? These injection sites?
Initially, that's a good question to ask about the pilot test. If there's some questions about how they're going to install the pilot test, somebody might say, can they be in a location that is semi-permanent out of farm fields? And there are areas you can do that if they're looking to like re-inject. But the initial plan was the majority of the wells out there would be temporary.
And then that would cost a tremendous amount of money to...
Well, it's a pipe that you drive into the ground, you inject, and then when you're done, you would pull back out. This is the long-term plan. You would not leave pipes all over the ground.
Yeah, well, I mean, you can't open a well.
No, you wouldn't do that.
This is more complicated all the time.
All right. If there are no other questions, so we can adjourn for today.